Welcome to the Planet Purl video tutorial, Introduction to Intarsia, Part 1. Our supplies, the chart, and some butterflies of yarn. Our chart can be found at planetpurl.com/classes. So to get started, I've done the first 2 rows. Of course, we're working back and forth, as you can tell from the chart. And I've done the first 2 rows of the background color. So we're going to start row 3 blocks of green, and then the background color all the way to the end. If you haven't watched our video on how to read color charts, you should stop this video, go back and see it now. So first we're going to pick up our little butterfly of green. And of course, we have a video on how to make butterflies, which if you haven't seen it, you want to go watch it now if you don't know how to do this. So now a purist doesn't knot, but you could just tie a little half-hitch knot here to add your green and snug it up to the needle. Take it out later if you like. But I'm just going to hold the yarn behind. And I'm going to knit my first 3 stitches with the green. I'm going to snug up that first stitch a little bit. So I've got 3 stitches in green, and now I need to go to my background color. And this is the trick to Intarsia without holes, is that you need to pick up the new color you're going to work with underneath the color that you were just using. So again, we're going to pick up the working strand of the off-white underneath, so we're going to flip that green over the top, underneath the green. It's that twisting by picking up the new color underneath that prevents the holes. And on this chart, we're going to knit background all the way to the end, which I'm not going to make you watch. All right, so now we have the row done, and you see it's the 3 stitches of green, just like in the chart, the 3 stitches of green, and then the background color all the way to the end. So we're working back and forth. So row 4, we start with the first box on the left-hand side and work across till the last 4 stitches, which will be green. So 1 green, and then we're going to work to the last 4 stitches in the background. So we have a second little butterfly of green. And that's the thing, is you're going to add a butterfly every place where the colors meet up. So any place there's a change in color, you're going to need a butterfly. And you can do your butterflies in different sizes. This is going to be only 3 stitches on this butterfly, so I made it nice and small. So same thing, we're on the purl side. I just hold the yarns together and I knit a stitch in green. And I'm going to tug my tail a little bit to snug that up. But that'll also get taken care of in the finishing when I take care of my ends. Now I'm picking my cream up underneath the green, and I'm going to purl to my last 4 stitches. And you can see it gets kind of messy pretty early, but the last 4 stitches, that last cream one is going to, background stitch now, is now going to be a green stitch. So we're going to go 4 green stitches. So here you can see I flip the white one over the top and pick the green one up from the bottom, and make sure you don't pick up the tail, that you're picking up the working yarn. All right, so I've got the green one from underneath, and now I'm going to purl the 4 stitches. Just like my chart requires. All right, so I'm going to turn this over. Yeah, and this is every couple rows you need to untangle what's behind there, because it does get a little messy. But you see I've got 4 greens. The rest of the row is cream up to that last stitch according to my chart. So now we're on row 5. We're going to do it the same way. We would knit across 4 greens to the last, And I'm going to show you from behind what this looks like. So I've knit my 4 greens. I'm going to put the green above the off-white, pick the off-white up from underneath, drop the green, and you see that it's twisting. It's catching that green thread when I move the yarn into place. It's really about capturing that yarn and connecting them. I'm going to show you again. This is the last stitch on the green. So I'm going to move the off-white above, and I just use my left hand to do that, and pull the green from underneath, capturing that off-white yarn. And then I'll knit that last stitch with green. So here I have, you see how there's no hole there where those 2 colors are? It's from the twist in the back that holds them together. And you see you kind of get this kind of little elongated stitch looks like on the back. It's where they're twisted together. The back side of Intarsia is not the pretty side of Intarsia. So we're going to move on now to a row where the background color gets broken up by something else, in this case the blue polka dot. So we're on row 7 now of your chart. If you're knitting along, pause and catch up with me. So we're on row 7, and row 7 tells us that first we're going to knit with green once we get it untangled from the rest of this mess here. So we're going to knit with the green 3 stitches. Then the green goes up, the off-white comes underneath. So twisting that color right there, and then we're going to knit with the background for 4 stitches. All right, so let's double check our chart and make sure that it's time to add the blue. So here we have just what we're needed to do. We have 3 blue stitches to add. So we're going to do exactly the same thing we did for the green. We're going to take a little bit of yarn out of the bobbin. You don't want to take too much out, or your bobbin will dangle and get tangled more easily. We're going to hold it with the yarn. We're going to knit 3 stitches. Now, if you don't knot the yarns, you are actually going to create the tiniest of hole, which you can, on that first stitch, which you can go back, and when you're doing your ends, you'll take a little stitch and connect that. So now we're back to the off-white, but since we're not going to strand the off-white from that first half behind it, we need to add an off-white bobbin. I mean, this is the difference with Fair Isle. You would just strand the off-white behind it, but in Intarsia, you don't strand behind. So all of your knitting is only going to be 1 stitch thick, or 1 strand of yarn thick. So once again, we add that off-white, and because we didn't knot it, there's going to be the tiniest of holes, which we'll fix when we do our finishing work. And we're going to go all the way to the end with the off-white, just like the chart requires. Now you see here, you see that little tiny hole, and what will happen when you cross those yarns, how it snugs it up. Here's another one, and I'm showing you where it's that little tiny hole. When you cross the yarns on the next row, it's going to snug that up. And if it still leaves a little tiny difference in the tension, you can always fix that in the finishing. Don't forget part 2 of Introduction to Intarsia. And come visit us at planetpurl.com.